We're looking at what first responders saw and heard when they arrived at the Richins household. I'll put the words up, but I'm not going to sit here and read the whole thing to you. I am going to take you along with me while I do a preliminary analysis and point out the things that jump out. If I was doing this for work, I would go over it repeatedly and return to it as new information came in. Imagine yourself in the deputy's position. You've been called to a nice house in a nice neighborhood for what appears to be a medical emergency. Paramedics and other officers are already there. You've been on lots of these calls before, and most of the time, they're tragic and awful, but not criminal. He asks her name and what happened, and her response is interesting. She says, I don't know. He was just fine. We were fine. There are two things here. First is the I don't know. She didn't say what happened. She didn't say, I found my husband unresponsive, I touched my husband, he was cold, any of that. She says, I don't know. Now, fair enough. How somebody answers a question depends on what they perceive as being asked. So she may be perceiving the question as, what happened to him? And her answer is, I don't know. Okay, fair enough. He was just fine. But the we were fine. That's odd. Why add the we? What is that about? The deputy picks up on this. He's saying, when you say we were fine, and he stumbles a little bit, what time did you see him when he was alert? You can tell his brain has picked up on something here. She says, we had a drink together at 9 to celebrate something at work tomorrow. Again, that's an odd extra little detail. Remember, this is a very traumatic, horrible situation that she's in. So it's odd to throw in the extra detail, but okay, some people are like that. She says, we went to bed. I went to bed with my kids. He went to bed in our bed. This is different from what comes out later when she said they went to bed and then she went to the child's room because the child was having a night terror. And this is 9 o'clock. They're going to bed at 9? Did they always go to bed that early? And it's interesting she throws in the, we had a drink together. Instead of the last time I saw him alert was at 9 when we went to bed. To make sure the deputy's got the time right and that he's not assuming, he asks, what time did you go to bed? And she says 9:30. Then at 9:45. Fair enough. When you're going about your evening, you're not keeping track of exactly what time it is. And here he asks a key question. What alerted you to him today, right now? Her answer is telling. It's what I just woke up. When I sleep with my kids, I'll just wake up and I go back to my own bed. Well, that's interesting. That doesn't answer the question, first of all. She's stumbling over her words, and she's doing this just. I'm minimizing just. It's not conclusive. It is something to twig your brain to say, hey, pay attention to this. So she hasn't answered his question. He says, uh-huh. And then she says, and I just, there's that word again, I just crawled over on his side and... Wait a minute. She's sleeping with her kids. She woke up, just woke up. And when she says, I'll just wake up and go back to my own bed, she's talking in a generality. She's not speaking about that specific night. She's telling about something that usually happens. She's not saying, I did wake up and went to my own bed, or this is usually what happens and this is what happened. She's hiding something right here. And she's saying, I just crawled over on his side. Well, she didn't tell us what woke her up, what time was it. She went back to bed and crawled over on his side from where? Did she get into bed and then crawl over on his side? Why is she crawling over there? This isn't quite hanging together. She is hiding something right here. So the deputy asks, and he was lying in bed? She nods. And then she says, no. And he was lying in bed. She nods. Okay. No, he was on his back on the bed and I just, what? Was he in bed? or not. But then now he's on his back. Okay, where are your children? The deputy needs to know that the children are safe, that they're okay. He's going to want to know whether they saw anything or not. She says one's asleep in that room and two are awake with their ear to the door. I don't want them to come out. Please don't make them come out. Well, hang on. So did she go check on the kids? Do we know that? And you know what? We haven't really got the question answered as to what alerted her to Eric's condition. So we've moved along here, but back here, he'd asked what alerted you, and we never really got an answer. She says I just crawled over on his side and that's it. So he's asking about the kids, and I don't want them to come out. That's an understandable wish from a mother. She doesn't want them to see the commotion. She doesn't want to risk them seeing their father in that position. Most of the time at these scenes, the parents want the kid close to them. They feel extra protective. They want those kids within eyesight so that they can be near them and protect them. And sometimes it's difficult to get the parent to send the child to a different room so you can question the parent about sensitive things. But it is understandable that a mom wouldn't want her kids to come out into all the commotion. I do wonder if she went and spoke to them. Did she tell them, hey, stay in your room, there's stuff going on, everything's okay? Did she console them? Because that would be really frightening for a kid to have all that commotion in the house and not understand what's going on. They would be worried. The deputy offers to call family, and that is appropriate and that's normal. And of course she wants to call her mom, and that's perfectly normal too. And she also says, I need to call his dad. And that's a good thing. Right away, she's not just thinking about herself and getting support for herself. She wants to call Eric's dad, and that is appropriate. Then she says, he's going to be okay, right? Like I got in the bed and then I just got, oh, hold on. There's a lot right here. If she'd stopped at, he's going to be okay, right? She might have been believable. Asking for that kind of reassurance is common. The problem is she adds something to that. She talks about what she was doing, sort of. She's acting like she needs some sort of reassurance. But then she says, like, and stumbling, I got in bed and then I just got, what? So she's throwing in her narrative here when she's trying to act like she needs reassurance as to whether or not he's going to be okay. Those two things don't go together. So that's a red flag. And the like and the just and the and then, so we have the minimizing, we have the narrative, we have vagueness, at the same time as throwing in that extra bit of narrative at the end of asking for reassurance. It's really weird. So the deputy reassures them they're doing their best, and he's focused on getting her in contact with family members. So she's trying to call her mom, and he asks her where her phone is and offers to go get it. And she tells him it's on the floor, and I understand why he's doing that. She's getting voicemail, and so her mom might not answer the phone at that time if it's some strange number. This deputy is trying to be supportive, but that phone on the floor is part of the scene, and he wants family members called for the kids. Those kids are going to need some support. And it looks like he's got somebody else's phone. He's offering her a phone, and she says, no, that's not even his. I'm sorry, I don't know whose that is. Is there an extra phone laying around there? What's up with that? It would be really odd for a first responder to leave their phone laying somewhere at a scene. So that's weird. I don't know what that's about. If I was looking at this case, if I was working on this, I would want to find out. I'd be calling or writing the officers to find out whose phone was that and where did it go. It might be nothing, but there might be something to it. That's just weird. So then the deputy says, we couldn't find it. You can keep using mine. So she calls for her mom, and mom asks, what's going on? She says, I don't know. Something's wrong with Eric. Police and ambulance are here. But then she says, I don't know what's happening. Yes, she does. She says he wasn't breathing, and I don't know. So that's, again, it's a little bit off. But you know what? Everybody's different. Might not be anything. All of these little things that are just odd, you just kind of remember them because something might come up later that makes it make sense. The deputy says, my partner found your phone. I want to know where the phone was found. Is this your husband? And she says, yes. He says, okay. And he hasn't asked anything yet. And she says, but he wasn't. And we don't know what she said. Just, what is she trying to do here? Deputy asks if he has any medical conditions. That is a normal question. And she answers with the Lyme's disease. And she says, nothing major. So that's important. Nothing major. Then he says, okay, so no heart problems or anything like that. And my knee-jerk reaction is, no, that's a leading question. But I understand where he's coming from. She has just said he has no major health issues. Just like 1 second ago, the deputy brings up heart problems. She says no. And then she says he just said his chest was hurting when he went to bed. Well, wait a minute. At the very beginning, she said she doesn't know what happened. He was fine. We were fine. If he had said at any point in the evening, I don't feel well, my chest is hurting, I'm unusually tired, anything like that, she would have said so. And not only would she have said so, she would have said it on the 911 call. Now, I haven't heard that call, so I don't know if she did, but given her initial remarks here, he was fine, everything was fine, I suspect not. And the other thing we should expect to see is guilt right here. If your loved one says, you know what, my chest is kind of hurting, or I don't feel well, and you didn't do anything about that, and then the person dies, you're going to feel guilt. Even if it's not your fault, even if you couldn't have possibly known, you're going to feel guilt. You're going to say, oh my gosh, I should have taken it more seriously. And so we're going to expect to see that. So he says his chest was hurting when he went to bed, according to her, and she only brings this up after the deputy makes the suggestion of heart problems, and then she's minimizing it. She says, but not if he doesn't drink enough water, when he gets on the bike downstairs. So was he on the bike or not? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Now she's saying he does have problems when he doesn't drink enough water and when he gets on the bike downstairs. Well, wait a minute. Was he on the bike downstairs that night? She's saying it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, she's right. This story of hers isn't making sense already. And she says, and then he said that he was really tired. All right. And then when? When he went to bed? When he rode the bike? Well, wait a minute. Did he ride the bike? We don't know. And then, okay. And then he said he was really tired because he got his allergy shots yesterday morning. That raises a whole bunch of questions. Does he always get tired after his allergy shots? And how long does it take before he gets tired from them? Is the doctor aware of this? Who gave him his allergy shot? She says because he got his allergy shots, as if that's a normal thing. Is this in his medical record anywhere? where he's complaining that he's tired. Now, what the officer didn't know at this time is that later on, this issue of allergy shots gets brought up. She uses this business of allergy shots making him sick as a way to explain a previous incident that they had where he got very ill. And according to her, she said that her and Eric and their friends were joking about how you can be allergic to your allergy shots. Then she says, with my son, they went to, I don't. She's adding extra detail here, but only sort of. She's not even speaking in complete sentences. The deputy circles around again, and then when did you discover him? What time? She says, I got up, I got my phone, and it was maybe 3. Well, we know that the ambulance was called at 3:22. She also later says, and he doesn't know this yet, I don't think. She says that her phone was in their bedroom, plugged in, charging. So if she got up and got her phone, does that mean she went into their bedroom? And then what? She's not saying what happened. She's saying she got her phone. She's not saying I discovered him. Why is she getting her phone at 3 o'clock in the morning? The deputy asks a crucial question. Did you immediately call 911? She says, yeah. Well, I mean, So yeah, but no, not really. So I got up and, well, as soon as I turned over and he was cold. Wait a minute. Got up and then what? Because she's up. So how is she turning over? She got up from her child's room, so she says. But now she's turning over and it's as soon as I turned over and he was cold. She avoids the question and she's stumbling and she doesn't say what happened. She's giving an explanation. All he asked was, did you immediately call 911? The answer is yes or no. And if the answer is no, it's no because, right? What time did you discover him? And she's not saying she discovered him at 3. She's saying she got her phone at 3. And she's up, but is somehow turning over and he was cold, just like that. She's delaying giving the answer. And earlier, she said she just crawled over his side. Remember that? Well, which is it? You got up and turned over in the same breath, but she was in a different room. So when did she turn over? And she says, as soon as, a reference to time, and he was cold, just like that. There's a whole lot missing here. And she's not telling him. I just felt like something was wrong. Okay. And then she says, so I mean, I just put the blanket on him. So it sounds like she's trying to say, well, I thought he was just cold. It just seems unbelievable, especially in light of all the humming and hawing and dancing around here. The just over and over and over. It's a minimizing just. That minimizing just, if it's used repeatedly, is always a signal to say, pay attention. So she put the blanket on him and then just sat there for a minute and she didn't feel his breathing. And it's like his breathing or anything. And so I turned the blanket on. So you didn't feel him breathing. So what do? You turn the blanket on? Well, that's interesting. You know, when they look at time of death, they take body temperature. I wonder if she knew that. I wonder if she really did turn the blanket on. Your husband's not breathing, so you turn on an electric blanket. Okay, and I'm assuming it's an electric blanket. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. She said, I turned the blanket on. I'm assuming that's what she means. I could be wrong. And then and he asks about COVID. Well, you know what? She still has not answered really how she discovered him, has not answered really whether she called, how long it took to call 911, or when she realized she should call 911. So he asks again for her name because he's going to write it down, and she spells it for him. Picture the scene here. He is writing in his notebook. He's trying to get very specific information. So he's not going to be really laser focused on her, or so it will appear to her, right? And she throws in, we eat gummy. Sometimes he'll eat a gummy before he goes to bed. So it looks like her brain is focused on what caused this, which actually is not all that unusual, except that she has said some odd things and skipped over some really important details. Because she skipped over important details, but now is asking about this, it makes me wonder if she is possibly trying to direct them in a certain way to look for specific causes. But then she says it didn't seem like he took a gummy. So they talk about these gummies, and just a note, when they searched the place, they didn't find any gummies. So the deputy wants to know his primary care provider. She gives the name. She says he just had a physical, and everything was fine. So that was 6 months ago. The phone call to Kouri Richins, Eric's dad. Something's happened to Eric, she says. And that is an interesting way to say it. She doesn't say something's wrong with Eric. She says something's happened. Very interesting choice of words. It may be just the way she speaks, but all of these little things, you sort of stick a pin in that. So Jean asks what happened, and she says, I don't know. And then she says something's wrong. He says, why? So he wants to know what happened because she says something happened. Something's wrong with him. Well, why? You just told me something happened, right? Why? What? Come on. She tells him the paramedics are here. She says she doesn't know. And then she says she was sleeping with the child, and I came in the room and he wasn't breathing. Dad's asking, where are they taking him? And she says, nowhere right now. They're doing CPR. Well, how terrifying is that for a father to hear about his son? Let's talk about this phone. She said her phone was in her room, plugged in, charging. And she says she went to sleep at about 9:30, 9:45, and that she went to sleep in her child's room. But cell phone records show that she was browsing the internet after 10 p.m. In response to the question of when did you discover him, she said, I got up, I got my phone, and it was maybe 3. So leave aside for a second that she didn't actually answer the question of discovering him. She's telling what time she got her phone. She's awake at 3 and she's got her phone. The deputy asks, did you immediately call 911? And we know she didn't. She says, yeah, then, And this is when she says, I got up, and as soon as I turned over, he was cold. Forensics found that tolls on the defendant's phone show that messages were sent and received between the time she went to the child's room and when she dialed 911. Those messages were deleted manually. Let's talk about this timeline. She's claiming she got up at 3. The context in which she says this is supposed to make the deputy think that she found him around 3. 911 wasn't called until 3:22. At 3:07, her phone was unlocked. At 3:08, there was movement. At 3:12, the phone was unlocked again. At 3:16, the phone was unlocked again. At 3:19, the phone was unlocked twice. What was she doing with her phone at 3 o'clock in the morning? Who was she texting? Who'd she call? At 3:21, the phone is unlocked again. And then at 3:22, there's the 911 call. Let's talk about this movement. At 3:08, after the phone was unlocked, there was movement of several feet. Just before the 911 call,
there was two movements right before the 911 call, and they're both significant. One was about 240 feet, like 74 meters and change, and the other one was about 130 feet. And this is right before the 911 call.
I'm going to bring this up at the end of part 2 of this series. This is significant. Listen to this about how she described finding him and calling 911.
She stated she returned to her own bedroom, got into bed, and felt that Eric was cold to the touch. She stated that she turned the light on, saw that he wasn't breathing and that he didn't look normal, and that she then called 911.
This is different from her other statements. If, when she realized he was cold to the touch, she turned on the light and then called 911, well, where's the light? Is it a little lamp that's right beside the bed? Is it a light switch on the wall? How far away is it? Is it more than 200 feet? Is it 130 feet? I mean, how big is this room, right? The story doesn't hang together. What we learn in part 2 is explosive. I hope you'll tune in. Thank you for watching.